Rain tapped softly against the stained glass windows of the church as people filled the pews. Black suits, quiet whispers, the smell of lilies. Everything was heavy with sorrow. Janelle Carter stood at the very back, barely noticed. She hadn't seen most of these people in years. Some of them hadn't spoken to her since she left home at 19. And none of them had expected her to show up today. It was her father's funeral. And even though he hadn't spoken to her in over a decade, she had come. Because no matter what happened between them, he was still her dad. And a part of her, a part she hated, still wanted to believe he cared. Still wanted to believe that maybe deep down he hadn't stopped loving her. The service began. The pastor spoke about life and law. The choir sang softly behind him. Then came the tributes. We now invite Mr. Carter's children to come forward and share a few words about their father. Janelle's breath caught. This was it. Maybe they'd call her name. Maybe her half-sisters would nod at her, or even wave her forward. But the pastor began listing names. Amanda. Eric. Tasha. No Janelle. She waited. Nothing. Amanda, the oldest, stepped up to the microphone, her voice already trembling with tears. Daddy was the strongest man I've ever known. Janelle's ears rang. Her name had been skipped. Left out completely, like she didn't exist. Like she had never been born. She stared at the front of the church, at the casket draped in white, at the framed photo of her father smiling in a crisp navy suit. That photo wasn't for her. None of this was. Tasha read a poem. Eric talked about fishing trips. Janelle didn't move, didn't cry. Her fingers tightened around the folded letter in her purse, the one she wrote 5 years ago but never mailed. She had poured her heart into that letter, explaining everything, begging him to meet, to talk. He never answered. A lump burned in her throat. When the service ended, people walked past her without saying a word. Even Amanda brushed by like they were strangers. Janelle walked out into the rain and stood beside the hearse. She didn't care that she was soaked now. Her father was gone. And somehow, even in death, he had found a way to reject her again. But she wasn't going home yet. There was one more thing she had to attend, the reading of the will. And something deep inside her whispered, he didn't forget you. Not entirely. Janelle Carter grew up in a small, 2-bedroom house on the east side of Atlanta. Her mother, Denise, raised her alone until she was 10. That's when her father, Gerald Carter, suddenly showed up again, older, dressed in a tailored suit, smelling of expensive cologne. He told Denise he was ready to be a father now, ready to help. At first, Janelle had been excited. She had waited so long to meet him. But things didn't go the way she hoped. A year later, Gerald took custody of Janelle, claiming her mother was unfit because of a past addiction she had already overcome. The court sided with him. He had money, a clean house, and a powerful lawyer. Denise fought, but she couldn't win. That's when Janelle's life changed. She moved into Gerald's big house in the suburbs, a place with 4 bedrooms, a cleaning lady, and a perfectly trimmed lawn. But inside, it was cold. His new wife, Sheila, barely looked at her. His other children, Amanda, Eric, and Tasha, treated her like a guest who had overstayed her welcome. They were polite when Gerald was watching, but cruel when he wasn't. Janelle felt like a stranger in her own home. She was constantly reminded she wasn't part of their family. When she brought up her mother, Gerald would cut her off. She had her chance, he'd say. Let it go. But Janelle couldn't let it go. She missed Denise every day. And the older she got, the more questions she had. Why did her father only come for her when it was convenient? Why did he never talk about the past? When she was 16, she found out through a neighbor that Gerald had cheated on Sheila with Denise. That's how she was born. She was the secret child. The mistake. Everything started to make sense then. At 19, after another explosive argument about her wanting to visit her mom, Janelle packed her bags and no goodbye, no money, no support, just silence. She moved in with Denise and started over. It wasn't easy. She worked at diners and cleaned houses while putting herself through community college. Her mom helped when she could, but things were always tight. Still, for the first time, Janelle felt like herself. She wasn't invisible anymore. She was loved. Now, 13 years later, she was 32, working as a medical assistant in a small clinic. She didn't have much, but she had peace. She hadn't spoken to Gerald since the day she left, but she never stopped wondering if he thought about her, missed her, regretted how things ended. She never expected to hear from anyone in his family again, until 2 weeks ago, when a short message came through her inbox. Gerald Carter passed away last night. Funeral next Saturday. You may want to attend. It was unsigned. No explanation. Just that. Janelle had stared at the message for hours. Part of her wanted to delete it. Another part couldn't ignore it. Her hand shook when she finally hit reply. I'll be there. She didn't tell her mother. She didn't want Denise to relive that pain. Instead, she took 2 days off work, bought a simple black dress, and booked a cheap hotel near the church. Now, walking out of the funeral under gray skies, That decision weighed heavy on her chest. She felt foolish for coming. Rejected. Alone. But one thing still pulled her forward: the will. When she was 19, in the middle of one of their fights, Gerald had said something she never forgot. "I built everything I have on my own. You think you deserve a piece of it? Earn it." It wasn't about money, though. Janelle didn't care about his house or bank accounts. What she wanted, what she had always wanted, was acknowledgement, proof that she mattered. And now, there was one last chance for that. The lawyer's office was 15 minutes away. The family was supposed to meet there at 4 p.m. sharp. As Janelle walked to her car, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Don't bother coming to the reading. This isn't for you." She stared at the screen. Her stomach turned. But instead of turning back, she unlocked her car and got in. Her hands were still shaking. She was going. The lawyer's office was on the top floor of an old building downtown. The elevator was slow and creaked as it climbed. When Janelle stepped out, the hallway was quiet. A glass door read, "Miller and Green Estate Law." She pushed it open. Inside, the room was already full. Amanda sat on one end of the table, her arms crossed tightly. Eric leaned back in his chair, flipping through something on his phone. Tasha didn't even look up. Sheila, Gerald's widow, sat near the lawyer with dark glasses hiding her eyes. Janelle stepped in and cleared her throat. No one greeted her. Amanda gave her a quick glance and rolled her eyes. "You're late," she muttered. "I'm on time," Janelle replied softly. "It's 4 p.m. The lawyer, an older man in a gray suit, stood. "Miss Carter, please have a seat. We're just getting started." Janelle sat at the far end, keeping a polite distance. Her heart thudded in her chest. She didn't know what to expect. Part of her still believed they would find a way to push her out again. The lawyer opened a thick file. "Thank you all for coming. I know this is a difficult time. Gerald Carter left a clear and detailed will, last updated 6 months ago. I'll read it now as instructed." He cleared his throat and began. "To my wife, Sheila Carter, I leave the house on Willow Lane and all household contents. To my children Amanda, Eric, and Tasha, I leave control of my business shares and investments, divided equally." Janelle stared down at her hands. There it was again, her name missing. Just like at the funeral. Amanda smirked, but the lawyer kept reading. "And finally, to my daughter, Janelle Denise Carter." The room went still. Janelle looked up slowly. Everyone else turned to stare at the lawyer. "I leave full ownership of my private lake property in Blue Ridge, the contents of the safety deposit box held in my name at Fulton Bank, and this personal letter." The lawyer pulled out a sealed envelope and slid it toward Janelle. Amanda stood up, her chair scraping loudly. "What? That has to be a mistake. She wasn't even in his life." The lawyer kept his calm. "Mr. Carter confirmed this decision during our last meeting," he said, and I quote, "She was the one child I failed the most. I want her to have something that's hers alone." Tasha scoffed. "Unbelievable." Eric leaned forward. "Wait, the lake house? That place is worth." Sheila slammed her hand on the table. "Enough." Janelle didn't say a word. Her hands trembled as she picked up the letter. Her name was written in her father's handwriting. She recognized it immediately. Neat, sharp. The same way he used to label files in his office. The lawyer continued with final details, but Janelle couldn't hear anything else. Her mind was spinning. Why would he do this? Why now? When the reading ended, everyone filed out of the office quickly, except Amanda. She walked over to Janelle, her voice low and bitter. "He did this to punish us. You think he cared about you? He did this out of guilt, not love." Janelle looked up at her. "Maybe. But he still said my name." Amanda's face hardened. "Don't get comfortable. That property won't stay yours for long." Janelle left the office quietly, the letter pressed to her chest. Outside, the air was cooler, the sky starting to clear. She sat in her car and opened the letter with shaking hand. Inside it read, "Janelle, I know I was never the father you needed. I made choices I can't undo. I thought staying away from your mother was protecting. I see now I was wrong. You were always my daughter. I just didn't know how to face the truth. I hope this gives you something I never could, peace. Dad." Tears slid down her cheeks. It wasn't everything. It didn't fix the years of pain. But it was something. It was a start. And maybe, just maybe, she wasn't forgotten after all. The next morning, Janelle drove to the lake property listed in the will. It was a quiet 2-hour drive through winding roads and thick pine trees. She hadn't been there since she was 14. One weekend trip with Gerald when he was still pretending to be her father. She remembered fishing on the dock and eating burnt hot dogs. It was one of the few good memories she had with him. When she arrived, she pulled up slowly in front of the old wooden cabin. The place was still beautiful, peaceful, almost untouched. The lake stretched out wide, calm and silver under the morning light. The cabin looked a little worn, but the porch was sturdy and the windows were clean. It was clear someone had been taking care of it. There was a car already parked in the driveway. Janelle's stomach dropped. She got out and walked up the steps carefully. Before she could knock, the door flew open. "Amanda, what are you doing here?" Janelle asked. I could ask you the same thing, Amanda snapped. This was never meant for you. You think just because he wrote your name on some paper, it makes you family. Janelle kept her voice calm. This place is mine now, Amanda. You heard the lawyer. Amanda's eyes narrowed. You don't get to act like the victim. You left. You gave up on this family. And now you want to come back and take something you didn't earn. I didn't leave, Janelle said, her voice trembling. I was pushed out. I was never welcome. Amanda stepped closer. He was our father. We were there. You weren't. So if you think you're going to sell this place and walk away with money that should have stayed in our family, think again. Janelle didn't reply. She simply walked past her, into the cabin. It still smelled like pine and old books. Everything was neat. There were pictures on the wall, Gerald fishing, Gerald standing beside Eric with a hunting rifle, but not one photo of her. Amanda followed her inside. We've already talked to a lawyer. You think this is over? It's not. We're contesting the will. Janelle turned around. Why are you so angry at me? He gave you everything else. The house. The business. What does this place mean to you? Amanda paused. It's not about the place. Then what? Janelle asked, her voice rising. What is it about? That he left something to me? That he admitted I existed? Amanda looked away. For a moment, she looked more sad than angry. You don't know everything, Janelle. You think he was some perfect father to us? He wasn't. He controlled everything. And when things didn't go his way, he turned cold. Janelle softened. Then maybe we have more in common than you think. But Amanda shook her head. No, you don't get to come in now and rewrite history. You weren't here. You don't understand the pressure of being part of his real family. Janelle's chest tightened. I was part of his real family, whether you liked it or not. Amanda turned and walked out, slamming the door behind her. Later that evening, Janelle sat on the porch, watching the water. The letter still sat in her bag, folded neatly. She took it out and read it again. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You should check the safety deposit box before you get too comfortable. She stared at the screen. Another message came in. Your father kept secrets from all of us. Hope you're ready to find out why he really left you that cabin. Her heart raced. The next morning, she drove straight to Fulton Bank. She handed over the key from the lawyer and signed the necessary form. A few minutes later, a woman brought out the metal box and placed it on a table. Janelle opened it slowly. Inside was a stack of papers, some old photos, and a red leather journal. She picked it up and flipped through the pages. It was her father's handwriting. It was a private journal. The first few entries were about business, money, deals. But then one entry caught her eye. May 4th, I regret the way I handled Janelle. I was ashamed of the affair, yes. But more than that, I was afraid Sheila would leave if she ever found out the full truth. She never knew the real reason I fought for custody. Denise had something on me, something that could have ruined everything. Janelle froze. What did her mother have on him? She turned the page. Denise knew about the bribery, the cover-up. I paid off 2 contractors after that warehouse fire. No one ever found out. But she did. She said she didn't want to expose me, just wanted me to be a father. I thought taking Janelle away would protect my name. I never wanted to hurt her. Her hands trembled. Her mother never told her any of this. She kept reading. I kept the cabin under Janelle's name quietly. Changed the documents years ago. It's the one place they can't touch. It's the only thing I did right by her. Janelle sat back in the chair, the journal pressed to her chest. Now it all made sense. The silence. The rejection. The sudden custody fight. It wasn't about love. It was about control. About protecting his reputation. She had been a pawn in a much bigger game. She left the bank feeling sick. Everything she thought she knew was changing. And the worst part, her mother had kept it from her too. She called Denise that night. Mom, she said quietly, did Dad bribe contractors after that fire? Did you know? There was a long pause on the other end. Then Denise said, yes. Janelle closed her eyes. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted you to have a chance at a better life, Denise whispered. I thought if he felt responsible, he'd step up. I didn't know he'd take you away. You should have told me the truth. I'm sorry, baby. I thought I was protecting you. Janelle hung up, her chest heavy. She was alone in the middle now, between a father who lied, a mother who hid the truth, and siblings who hated her. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid anymore. They could come after her. They could try to take the lake house. The sky was dark with heavy clouds the day Amanda showed up at the lake house again. Janelle had just finished making tea when she heard the tires crunch on gravel. She looked out the window and saw Amanda's SUV parked crookedly by the trees. She didn't knock this time. She walked straight and like she owned the place. You need to leave, Janelle said firmly, standing in the middle of the room. Amanda's eyes were wild, her voice sharp. I just got off the phone with our lawyer. We're moving forward with the case. You're not going to win, Janelle. That will was written under pressure. You manipulated him somehow. Janelle stood her ground. He made his choice. He left this place to me. You can't change that. Amanda stepped closer. You think this is about a house? This is about family, about everything he built. And you were nothing but a mistake he tried to fix. Janelle's voice cracked, but she didn't back down. Then why did he write me that letter? Why did he leave me his journal? Why did he hide this property under my name years ago? Amanda flinched. Journal? Janelle turned, grabbed the red leather book from the table, and held it up. He wrote everything down. About the warehouse fire, the bribes, why he took me from my mom, why he cut me off. He was trying to cover up his shame, Amanda. Not protect you. Not protect this so-called family. Amanda froze. Her face shifted, anger, confusion, and something that looked like fear. You're lying, she whispered. I'm not, Janelle said, her voice shaking. He used all of us. You think he loved you more? He controlled all of us. And the minute you stopped doing what he wanted, he cut you off. Just like he did to me. Amanda sat down suddenly, like her knees gave out. She buried her face in her hands. He used to make us feel like we had to earn everything, she said softly. I was 12 when I saw him fire a man for disagreeing with him. He came home and told us it was better to be feared than loved. Janelle sat across from her, stunned. I never knew. Amanda laughed bitterly. Of course not. You weren't there. He made sure of that. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Amanda looked up, eyes red. You said he left you a journal. If that stuff about the fire is true, it could destroy his legacy. Janelle nodded. I know. And you're going to use it? Janelle stared at her. I don't want revenge, Amanda. I just want peace. I want to stop pretending like he was some perfect man. Amanda leaned back. If this gets out, the company, the reputation, the name, everything crashes. Janelle took a deep breath. Then maybe it should. Amanda stood again, pacing. Tasha and Eric are still pushing to fight you in court. They don't know about the journal. They think they can scare you off. Janelle shook her head. Not anymore. Amanda stopped pacing. You really think you can face all of them? Janelle's voice was steady. I already have. Amanda stared at her for a long moment, then turned and walked to the door. But before she left, she said something Janelle didn't expect. He never said he was proud of me. Not once. Janelle felt her chest tighten. Me neither. Amanda nodded slowly, then left. The next day, Janelle went back to the lawyer's office. She dropped the journal on his desk. He opened it carefully. As he flipped through, his face went pale. This is big, he said. If this goes public, it could lead to criminal investigations, especially if those contractors are still around. I know, Janelle said. The lawyer looked at her. Do you want to release this? I want to protect what he gave me, she said quietly. But I also want the truth to live somewhere. I want it on record, in case they ever try to paint me as the greedy outsider again. He nodded. We can do that. Quietly. We'll file it with your ownership document. If they contest the will, this becomes part of the court records. Janelle nodded. That's all I need. Later that week, she received a letter from the court. The family had withdrawn the challenge. No court battle. No press. No ugly headlines. She sat on the dock that night, wrapped in a blanket, staring out at the lake. It was silent except for the soft movement of the water. A gentle wind passed over her face. She had no father left. No happy family. But for the first time, she had something better. Truth, freedom, and a place that was truly hers. A few weeks passed. The tension slowly faded. The messages stopped coming. No more threats from Amanda, Tasha, or Eric. No more pressure from lawyers. It was quiet now, peaceful. Janelle stayed at the lake house. She spent her mornings cleaning the place, fixing broken steps on the porch, repainting the walls. It felt like she was rebuilding not just a house, but her life. Every corner she touched, every nail she hammered in, it was her way of saying, I belong here. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was surviving. She was living. One afternoon, while sorting through an old drawer in the bedroom, she found a small envelope. It had her name on it. Just Janelle, written in her father's handwriting. She sat down on the bed, heart pounding, and opened it. Inside was a short letter. I know you will hate me for much of your life. And maybe you should. I was weak. I failed you. But the day you came into the world, I felt something I never felt before. Hope. I ruined that with my choices. This cabin is yours now. Do what I never could, start over. Love freely. Live with courage. You're stronger than all of us. Dad. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't cry hard. Just quiet tears. This letter didn't erase the pain, but it was something. A small piece of honesty. Maybe even regret. That evening, she called her mom. I'm staying, Janelle said. At the cabin. There was a pause. Are you okay with that? Denise asked gently. I think I need it. I need time to breathe. To heal. To figure out who I am, without all the lies. I understand, her mom said. Just know you always have a home here too. I know, Janelle said. But for now, this is home. Days turned into weeks. Janelle started taking photos of the lake, the woods, the sky. She posted them online, writing small stories about her time there. People started following her page. Some even messaged her, thanking her for sharing her journey. She wrote about silence, about pain, about family that breaks you, and how sometimes family isn't about blood, it's about truth. One message stood out. It was from Amanda. Thank you for not destroying everything. I don't know if I'll ever understand your strength, but I'm starting to see things I didn't before. I hope one day we can talk. For real. Janelle read the message twice. Then she put her phone down. Not yet, but maybe someday. On her birthday, Denise came to visit. They sat on the porch together, drinking tea and watching the sun go down over the lake. I always dreamed of having a quiet place like this, her mom said. Me too, Janelle replied. I just didn't know it would come with so much pain first. Sometimes peace has to be earned, Denise said. You earned yours. That night, as Janelle lay in bed, she felt something shift inside her. She was no longer the forgotten daughter, no longer the girl skipped at a funeral. She was the woman who stood her ground, found the truth, and turned a broken legacy into a new beginning. She had been silenced for so long. It was early morning. The sun had just started to rise over the lake, painting the sky with soft pink and gold. Mist floated above the water, calm and still, like the world was holding its breath. Janelle stood at the edge of the dock barefoot, holding a cup of coffee in her hand. She looked out at the water, quiet and peaceful, and let the silence settle in her chest. This silence wasn't empty anymore. It felt full, of memories, of healing, of strength. She thought about everything that had happened. The funeral, the will, the way her name had been skipped like she never existed, the looks from her siblings, the anger, the truth. She had been hurt deeply, but she had faced it all. She had spoken up, stood her ground, and held on when it would have been easier to run. Behind her, the house was no longer a symbol of pain. It was hers now, not just on paper, but in her heart. She had made it hers with every repaired floorboard, every quiet night, every breath she took without fear. She took a slow sip of coffee and closed her eyes for a moment. For the first time in her life, she felt whole. Not because someone had chosen her, not because she had proven anything, but because she had chosen herself. She opened her eyes and smiled softly. The wind brushed against her face, gentle and warm. And in that quiet morning light, Janelle knew she didn't need anyone's permission to belong. She already did. She turned and walked back toward the house, the sound of her footsteps steady on the wood. There was still more life to live, but this time it would be hers, entirely hers. Hey besties, thanks so much for watching till the end. If you loved Janelle's journey from heartbreak to healing, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more deep, emotional stories. Next up, her friends invited everyone except her to their girls' trip, so she booked one seat beside. Don't miss it. See you in the next one. Bye.